Ya da 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 dum. Ya da 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 dum. Ya da 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 dum. Ya da 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 ya. Ay da da yum ba. Ay da da da. Ya da da dum. Ya da da ya da. Ya da da ya. Ya da da dum. Ya da da ya. Yada da 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 ya I yada da ya ya I ya 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 yada da 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 da. Boker Tov, good morning. 10:46, 10:45 when I started singing. Yes, it is later than our typical time. I had a funeral this morning, or I'm in between a funeral chapel and going out to Calverton National. Um, so the timing just couldn't work this morning, dropping Ellis off, having to be at the funeral early. And so here we are together. You know, time is a weird thing. You think you have enough of it, and then suddenly you don't have enough of it. And so this week's Parsha also talks about time, but in a little bit of a different way. Not time as far as hours and minutes, but time as far as days. Shmini, Parshat Shmini, which is the eighth day. And so, what is the symbolism surrounding this eight? Interestingly, there's an eight in the number today of how many days our siblings are held in captivity, 180. So at the completion of a week, of the completion of 7 days, we look towards the eighth day as a restart to the week. Do we start at a higher level? Do we start at the same place that we left off last week? Can we be more holy? Can we be more pure? Can we be closer to God? Can we be closer to rolling up our sleeves and doing mitzvot in a way that will bring about change? On the eighth day, a baby boy has a brit milah, a bris, a ritual circumcision, beginning their eighth day as a part of the covenant with the Jewish people, life of a higher connection or a connection to God. In the 7 days, the world was created on six, and the seventh is God's rest day. And on the eighth day, we have to figure it out, how to begin living. So 6 days God worked and created, gave us the seventh day. Here you go. Here's a day of rest. I took it too. Now it's yours. And then it comes the eighth day, which is like, okay, I created all of this for you. Now what? And so we figure out how to live our lives daily. What is it going to be like? Which is, living in a world that is full of challenges and also rewards. In this parsha, there's this talk about this strange fire. So I'll set it up for you. There are certainly challenges and rewards to this parsha. And it starts out with this ceremony or this inauguration of Kohanim, the high priest, who was going to be in charge. And the Mishkan was dedicated. And so Aaron and the Jewish people, they bring offerings and sacrifices, and Aaron offers all of them, and they're perfectly accepted. Aaron then raises his hands towards the people and blesses them, kind of like, that blessing of blessing, a blessing of, we bless you. We hope that God sees favor in you. We hope that you find kindness and peace. The same blessing, or the Birkat HaKohen, or HaKohanim. And in that blessing is where this comes from. That they were appointed to be in charge of blessing the people, and so they blessed Bnei Yisrael, the children. Aaron blesses them a second time. It was like the first time wasn't enough. Let me bless you again. And God's presence appears, and fire descends from heaven. burning up the parts of the sacrifice that are for God. People break forth into song and rejoice. God has accepted and received these offerings, penitential offerings. Look, we gave this to you and you accepted it. A blessing on your head, mazel tov. Offerings, sacrifices were given by people in hopes of forgiveness. Okay, so now they're feeling, oh, God's forgiving us. Great, we're great. This is the moment when God forgives Bnei Yisrael for the sin of the golden calf. Many of us can feel akin to this situation when we've been forgiven for something that we've done, whether intentionally or inadvertently, when someone says, I forgive you. Enabling this feeling of restored sense of wholeness, brightening our future. We don't have to hold the weight of that less than perfect. We've been forgiven. If only Shmini, this week's Parsha, ended there. How beautiful would that be? Ending on a high note. But no, it continues with a disturbing and catastrophic story in which there was Eish Zara. My eye is twitching, driving me crazy. Eish Zara, the strange alien fire. They offer incense. And so this wasn't the way. Perhaps they should have run this by Moses. Perhaps they shouldn't have just decided what they were going to offer, as it might create a situation that would be less than favorable. But instead, what do kids do? They weren't kids, but they were, younger than that which was, they were the sons, so they were younger. And so Nadav and Avihu, well, there they went. They took it upon themselves. They offered this sacrifice, and they passed on all of this potential knowledge and wisdom that was available to them and just decided to go with it. To say, you know what? We'll do what we want to do. That's like, what young people do because they know better. They relied on their inferior resources and it ended up in tragedy. They were consumed by the fire. So many people see the brothers as sinners or the negative reflection of Aaron and Moses in the world, right? When somebody does something wrong, we want to blame their parents. We want to blame their accomplices, the people that they're linked to. How would they bring a foreign fire? How would they bring fire foreign to what is the practice? Why would you do that? Entering the sanctuary, they were intoxicated, it says. They made their own religious decisions. They didn't consult Moses, no matter how honorable their intentions were, and maybe they were. Who would know? They still acted against God's will. This is the way it was supposed to be. Follow the protocol. Instead, they went out on a limb and did what they wanted. And the tragedy is that in the moment of glory, here we are. The sin of the golden calf has been forgiven. And yet at the same point in time, Aaron's sons are consumed by fire. They can be seen maybe as spiritual pollutants. Was it the burning fire that was in them? Was it the fire of ambition? Were they trying to do something more to see what would happen? Were they the entrepreneurial minded people of nowadays trying to do something different to see what spiritual fulfillment they would receive? No one knows the answer. No one knows the answer. And as I fast forward, I think about how did Aaron feel? As a Kohen, you may or may not know that Kohens are not supposed to be around the dead. So he couldn't even mourn the loss of his own sons because he couldn't be in proximity to touch the dead, to be in a certain amount of space. in closeness rather than needing to be afar from them. We think about the moments right now in our own history, which is unfolding for us in these moments, which is 180 days of war, 180 days of innocent death, 180 days where our siblings are held hostage, being treated, I am sure, in ways we could not even imagine. Imagine how the parents, the families, how we even feel as we are so distant, but yet feeling the heartbreak, the agony of those parents and families. 180 days, Aaron couldn't mourn the loss of his sons, but what about 180 days, the families of those that are held captive, the families of those whose people perished, the families of those whose bodies are still held. They've been informed that their loved one is dead, and yet they can't mourn because the body is held in captivity. And for those, God willing, that are alive, whose families are thinking after 180 days, we can't lose hope. 18, 180, a derivative of 18, please God, life, chai. May it be life. Separation of Aaron from his sons. Separation of families from those that are held captive. Separation of the state of Israel from those that are their own. Separation for those American hostages still held. Separation is truly heart-wrenching. And so we can't just say, I'm tired of this narrative. We are tired of this narrative. But yet, we can't stop hoping. We can't stop praying. We can't stop advocating. We can't stop talking. We can't stop showing up because we're still separate. Each time Shabbat rolls around and then Havdalah is done and then it's the 8th day or the first day. It feels like the first day all over again. We pray for the miracle that didn't happen yet. We pray for continued life. We pray Hatik for the hope. Please God, let there be life. Please God, end this war. Please God, all that is happening to humanity is terrible and we need our hostages back. Our people suffering time and time again must not be in vain. We can't allow it. In our daily fight against prejudice, against anti-Semitism, against inequality, is strengthened, is fortified, is fueled by the fire. Maybe the strange fire, maybe the alien fire, maybe that fire is the fire of change. Maybe that is the fire that we need, that it needs to be something strange in order to bring our hostages back now. For as long as we live, they live with us, God willing, in earthly body. And for the ones that perished, we hold them, we carry them, their families, their truth. For we remember October 7th. We don't forget it, and we don't stop hoping that there will be reuniting of families, of people, of love, of hope, of humanity. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you. We're grateful for you. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow morning at 9:30. Have a great day, everybody. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.